the channel. This week we will be doing another character analysis, and we are heading back to Red Rising as we're going to be doing a character analysis of one of my personal favorite characters, Cassius Bellona. Just like how I did my Lysander video, I'll go through each book, give a little rundown of his character development in that specific book, and then at the end I'll just give an overall summary of his character in general. That's how we're going to run this. Starting off with the first Red Rising book, we meet Cassius at first after Darrow has finished his trial test to get into the Institute, and Darrow's just kind of walking around, kind of commenting on the other golds until we get to Cassius. And then we switch over to Darrow's internal thoughts about Cassius, and Darrow very much comments Cassius is like the pinnacle of gold arrogance, and Pierce Brown does a really good job at showing that. Cassius is taking control of the entire conversation. Cassius is like very full of himself, like a regular gold would be. That's their first interaction, but Darrow needs Cassius and his family because Cassius is the son of the second most powerful person on Mars because his dad's the Imperator of a fleet. So Darrow very much needs to play nice with Cassius in order to get an apprenticeship with his family. That's their first real interaction with each other. Jump to after the draft, and they're all in the Institute kind of chilling out. We get to see Julian and Cassius interact. And now this is actually a very important interaction because Pierce Brown writes Cassius as if he's the older brother to Julian. The way Cassius speaks to Julian is very different. It's actually like kind and very brotherly. Pierce Brown does a really good job at writing the bond between the two brothers, even despite them being twins. Darrow also comments that the two of them are actually very good siblings, and Cassius isn't like kind of vindictive and cruel like the way Tactus's brothers Apollonius and Tharsis would be to him. Like, it's very different between the two of those guys, and that is very important because Darrow now sees that Cassius is arrogant, but he's not cruel by nature. He has a good heart and he's a good guy. He's just maybe a bit stuck up. He is basically what the Golds should strive to be. Maybe a little too arrogant, but still with a good heart and wanting to do the right thing by his family and by his friends. And we also see this very deep bond and care that Cassius has for his brother after he figures out that Julian is dead. His reaction is just perfect because he starts to slightly become unhinged, and we see the underlying gold tendencies because he wants to try and find out who killed his brother. And that's very much a big part of what drives Cassius through this entire first book, and really for the first two books. That's what drives Cassius, is the anger and sadness of losing his brother. While we're actually in the Institute, Cassius befriends Roke and Darrow. It basically uses the two of them almost as a coping mechanism to try and cope with the loss of Julian, because he actually says at one point, I might have lost one brother, but I found two more. Again, we do see that human side of Cassius as he does very much care for Darrow and Roke through the entire events of them trying to figure out how to survive the Institute and how to take command of House Mars so that they're not just swept off the chessboard right off the bat. Jump to the middle of the first book when Cassius is given that hollow drop and figures out that Darrow was the one to kill Julian. This is the moment that sets Cassius on his path. And that is the moment when he stabs Darrow right in the chest, completely leaves him for dead, and thinks he's taken vengeance for Julian's death, and he just leaves him. That is very much where we see the start of his cold-hearted persona take form. He's fully embraced Gold society and the Gold ideal of vengeance, like honor before all type thing. This is only really exasperated towards the end of the book when Darrow comes back and takes command of House Mars from Cassius, who at that point had been basically leading the entire house that entire time. It only makes it worse when Cassius sees Darrow and realizes that Darrow stole his thunder from him, and after a while Cassius declares a blood feud with Darrow, and then that's where it ends, with the two of them mortal enemies to each other, and Cassius is ready to kill Darrow at any second because of what he did to Julian. Jumping over to Golden Sun. Golden Sun, Cassius doesn't play a huge role, but the role he does play is important because Cassius has basically a ward of Octavia. He's now become an Olympic knight. He's really arrogant, kind of full of himself, and ready to prove worthy of being the heir of House Bellona. He's fully embraced Gold Society, drank the Kool-Aid, the whole bit. That is until the gala when Darrow decides to make that public spectacle and completely humiliates Cassius by taking his arm. This moment is very important for Cassius because it makes Cassius extremely humble because he realizes that he's still not on Darrow's level. Like, Darrow is still kind of a better swordsman and there's still more for Cassius to learn. And also, it just pushes him further into the gold ideology because Darrow humiliated him in front of everyone by taking his arm and just basically proving that Darrow is still better than Cassius at that moment. And it just pushes Cassius further into Octavia's plans. And jumping to book 3, Morning Star. This is probably the book where Cassius definitely changes the most. When we see Cassius first in this book, he's having dinner with the Jackal. Aja is with him. They're kind of discussing what Octavia wants Adrius to do about the Martian rebellion, and they're talking about the state of the society at that point, until it's revealed that Darrow has been under their dining table for basically the last year and tortured. When Cassius sees this, he's very much stunned. He does not love Darrow, but Cassius believes that Darrow doesn't deserve a fate like this. Cassius is basically disgusted at Adrius for what he did to Darrow. And Cassius does not like Darrow at this. He still hates him for what happened. Jump to when they are on the ice. Mustang actually shows Cassius mercy. Instead of going for the kill shot, Mustang shoots him basically through the throat. Cassius is still bleeding out and there's a good chance he's going to die. Mustang didn't instantly kill him, which says a lot. Mustang thinks Cassius is still a bad guy, but is worth giving a chance to at that moment. So that's an important scene to show that even despite what they think of Cassius, at least Virginia and Darrow are still willing to hear Cassius out and give him a chance to change. Another really important scene in that book is after the murder of Uncle Nero by the Jackal got televised to the entire fleet, and that riot breaks out, and they are about to hang Cassius for, being a gold. Severo, in a brilliant character development moment for him, decides to put his life on the line, metaphorically and quite literally, for Cassius, to make a point that if you're going to kill a gold, you're going to have to kill me too, in that moment. And that is a big moment for Cassius because, at least to me personally, I think he starts to realize the society would never do this. They would have just let him hang. And this is only exasperated when, after the fight with Roke and the whole thing with the dockyards, Darrow lets Cassius say goodbye to Roke. All the others, even Mustang, are sort of conflicted about them even giving Roke a funeral. He feels like he owes at least this much to Cassius to let him say goodbye to Roke. The combination of all this really starts Cassius's larger character change. Character change comes to a head when Darrow gives Cassius the hollow drop and Cassius watches it, realizing that Octavia and the Jackal were the ones to orchestrate the murder of his entire family, and Cassius has now been working for the people who killed his family this entire time. And this is Cassius's breaking point because he's been serving the monsters that killed his family, and he finally saw what Gold Society really is. It's a monster. It's not worth serving, and it's completely corrupt and needs to be taken down and destroyed. And I love the line that Cassius has where he's like, we're doing this for Julian because the society thought Julian was weak because he wasn't like us. He couldn't shout louder than everyone else to be heard. This is the moment that changes Cassius forever, because now he realizes what he's done wrong, and he's finally realized that I've been on the wrong side. Cassius finally understands why Darrow is doing what he's doing and decides to finally join with him and right the wrongs that Cassius himself has done, which culminates in this epic fight between Cassius, Darrow, Severo, and Mustang against Aja after they have finally murdered Octavia. After that fight, as sort of a form of redemption, Cassius takes on Lysander basically as his ward. He thinks that if he can raise Lysander to be a better person, then that is his penance for all of the stuff that he's done up until this point. Jumping to book 4, Iron Gold, Cassius has been raising Lysander as his ward for about a decade or so. They've been doing their thing in the belt, trying to help people that have been forced into a tough situation after the fall of the society. And this is also part of Cassius's penance, because he feels bad for all of this chaos, but ultimately he does understand that it was the right thing to do. Octavio and the society itself needed to fall. Cassius is basically doing what he thinks he has to atone for all the chaos that his decisions have brought. That is until they meet Serafina Al-Ra, and they are brought to the Rim, and it's finally realized that the Rim wants war with the Republic. And this does not sit well with Cassius, because so many people have died because of his actions that he is not willing to give Dido Al-Ra and the Rim in general what they want. He is not willing to be the one to start a war, and he tries so hard to impress on Lysander that this war cannot happen. As bad as it was after the society fell, starting a war with the Republic right now would just absolutely be disastrous. Lysander, being blindly loyal to society as he is, decides to completely disobey Cassius's wish for him not to give the information and start this war. Lysander does it anyway, completely dishonoring the last moments of Cassius's life as he's dying in the bleeding place, having defended his honor against House Ra and their blood feud against him. Ultimately, in the end of Iron Gold, Cassius basically dies being betrayed by the one person he decided to save as a form of redemption for both himself and just the world in general. Lysander completely betrays the guy, and I will never forgive Lysander for doing what he did. Final thoughts on Cassius's overall character arc. Overall, I love Cassius's character arc. I think Pierce Brown did an excellent job at writing a guy who basically started out as a kind-hearted and nice guy, but because of loss and the society he grew up in, became corrupted and became misled by Octavia and all of the other golds, using him basically as a chess piece. Until he realizes that he is actually being played and he's just, a pawn in everyone's game. And he finally takes a stand against it and ultimately does the right thing, decides to try and redeem himself for what happened. And then ultimately, he works for 10 years to make things right, but in the end dies betrayed by the one person he thought he could help, that being Lysander. So ultimately, I think Cassius's character arc is very much a tragedy. In the comments, if you guys want to, discuss Cassius's character development, I know what happens at the end of Dark Age. I was only really talking about Cassius' character development up until Iron Gold. When I say Cassius is dead, know that I know what happens. But if you guys want to discuss Cassius's character development, and if you guys have your own thoughts on Cassius, leave them down in the comments. I would love to discuss one of my personal favorite characters with everyone. As always, down in the comments, you can leave me book recommendations. If you guys want to see me do reviews on certain books, leave your recommendations down in the comments. Also, down in the comments, if you guys want me to do character analysis of other characters from other series, feel free to leave those down in the comments, and I might make a video on that character. Also, I will leave a link to my Instagram, TikTok, and also my Discord server, so you guys can check those out if you want. My Instagram and TikTok are both on book reviews, and I would highly recommend checking out my Discord server. I've been posting video updates, so if you guys want video updates, I also have spots to put book recommendations and stuff like that, so definitely check out my Discord server if you want to. Alright guys, thank you for making it to the end of the video. Please do not forget, like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you do not miss a video. That is going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, I will see you guys next time. Don't forget, keep on reading.